Welcome to the show, homies. Should you ever break your lease to buy your first home? I mean, that doesn't even make sense, does it? That's losing money just when you're trying to save up for the down payment and right before you buy the most expensive thing you're ever going to buy. So it's bonkers, right? Why would you do that? Once again, unfortunately, first-time homebuyers have not been given the clarity of my old friend, math. Yes, because oftentimes, even in the current expensive housing market, breaking your lease and paying that fee will actually put you financially ahead. So let's get into the math.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the #1 resource for first-time homebuyers.
What's happening, my How to Buy a Homies? David Sidoni here. Welcome to November. The window of opportunity, it appears to be open at this time right now for buyers. And in the last episode, 411, I talked about this end of the year window of opportunity, and it appears to have gotten through to many of you guys out there. I got hit with DMs, emails, people Facebook messaging me, which is crazy, right? And all of them were asking the same thing. David, should I break my lease to buy a house now during this window? Loaded question. So, of course, I'm going to come back at you with some math to help build your confidence in your decision. Because when it comes right down to breaking your lease or not, it all comes down to you having a real grasp on the math of becoming a homeowner. We've already discussed the rent replacement strategy regarding how much you pay each month for shelter. That's looking at your rent versus your mortgage. You can't compare a mortgage to your past buying experiences because it has other things built into it. I mean, for instance, you can't compare it to if you got a car payment, that's $500 a month. But now you want a new car. So you do the math, you figure out how much you're going to get for the trade-in, and the car you want, that payment's going to be $1,000. Okay, that's pretty simple. That's a straight increase of $500 a month. Now, a mortgage that is $500 more than your rent, that is totally different. Because if you're paying $2,000 a month in rent, but a mortgage PITI payment, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, is $500 more at $2,500. Yes, you're paying $500 more, but you're also using $2,000 a month that you previously were not using for yourself, putting it into a home, which is a forced savings account. All of that math is discussed in the Playbook episode 388. That's the full breakdown of the rent replacement strategy, and it's also talked about in the rent versus buy math. That episode's 355. Now, when we're looking at paying to break your lease, obviously you're saving up for a down payment and your closing costs. So it takes a little bit of big mathematical comprehension to believe that that's the best thing for you to do. Because, I mean, on the surface, paying any extra fees while you're trying to build up a savings account, sounds illogical. Just like on the surface, it sounds illogical that paying $500 more than your rent for a place to live in actually makes you money, even though you're paying $500 a month more, but it does when you own it. Because again, with that mortgage payment math, at first glance, it defies logic, but it's all laid out in episodes 388 and 355. We'll put them in the show notes. That math is there. And so now we'll get into the lease breaking math. Because of course, the breaking your lease and paying your fee doesn't seem like it's mathematically logical. Let's do an example. We'll take a buyer. We'll call him Logical Joe, okay? Logical Joe has been working a last lease ever program to buy a home for $400,000. Joe has $40,000 saved. That's pretty cool. So Joe's looking at the 10% and 5% down payment option and feels like Logical Joe is really close to being ready to buy a home. But here's the situation. Joe renewed a year lease just last month in September at $2,000 a month. So that means he's got 10 months left on the lease, and it's a $2,000 penalty to break the lease and get out early. So Logical Joe decides that it's only rational to wait till the lease is up to avoid paying $2,000 that goes to nothing. After all, he's worked really hard to save up that almost 10% of that $40,000 he's got. I mean, after all, he's worked really hard to save up that $40,000, and he doesn't want to eat into that. He waited this long, so what's a few more months? Well, my friend, Mr. Logical Joe, it's $2,000 a month times 10, or $20,000. That's a very simple mathematical fact, but the rationale and the logic in comprehending all the details of that fact, that takes the research and the belief in the math and the formulas of the rent replacement strategy. Now, we're going to go into those details, but that 10 months, $20,000 that you could be putting towards yourself for $2,000, that's the meat of the math. That's an $18,000 net profit. And that all comes from the strategy of the rent replacement. And it's because nothing can earn you more money than taking on a mortgage using your rent money. It's using the money you already spend to become a homeowner as soon as you can. And one of the big pictures behind that is reaping the rewards of your time in the market. And I know I'm talking big spreadsheet stuff with multiple different variables, multiple different things coming in and out, but it isn't just as simple as $2,000 takes $2,000 away from my savings. The reality is, if you're in a situation where you're going to spend $20,000 in rent in the current marketplace right now, because you don't want to lose $2,000, worrying about that is like stepping over a $20 bill to pick up what could be saving $1. Or in this case, it's stepping over a $20,000 investment so that you can save $2,000 today. So the first math, it's pretty darn easy. $18,000 positive. You lose $2,000 today to invest $18,000 into yourself for a payment that you were going to make anyway, your shelter. That's just the beginning of it. That's just the simple math. We're going to go into details, and they're all around the timing of buying a home. Because the best time that you can buy your first home, it's as soon as you can. That's rent replacement strategy 101. The rewards and the options you're going to get later, they all get bigger and better the more time that you own your first home. When you purchase that first home, that can change the trajectory of the rest of your life. And the best timing for you to buy, the best time of the year, the best date on the calendar, the odds are extremely rare that that lines up perfectly with the date on the closing of your lease contract. So that's why it's important you understand what you're giving up by just accepting that arbitrary date as the right date for you to move. Let the math convince you you really need to explore this option. And even though I know that math will be enough for even logical Joe, I know that I also happen to be battling a mental shift. It's a renter psyche. Waiting out your lease seems prudent because it's a concept that we all become comfortable with as renters. It's the cycle that you and your friends all deal with every single year. It's a harsh annual event. You mark that end date and you know what's coming. You're going to have either an annual renewal, which probably means an increase, or you're going to have to kick out a roommate or go find someplace on your own or move out, and that means a new deposit. It's the adulting annual ritual that we don't love, but we know is coming. So you mark the date and you pray that everything works out. I mean, when are you about to start creating stability for the rest of your life? The question shouldn't be, when does my lease end? The question should be, when does the math favor best for me? And it's a lot like that New Year's resolution. I mean, what if you're 30 pounds overweight in August? Why would you wait till January 1st to start a healthy lifestyle? Your lease date is the same thing. It's just a box on the calendar. It's not a wealth strategy that was set in place with the perfect timing for you. Don't let that arbitrary lease cycle be the reason that you miss a buyer-friendly window.
The How to Buy a Home YouTube channel has gotten an upgrade. Take your first-time home buying education to the next level with easy-to-understand breakdowns of all the concepts you'll need to stop renting and buy your first home.
Hey, that's right, JT. We love the podcast, and now you can get the core lessons in fast, high-value videos. From strategy breakdowns to learning the fundamentals. We'll be releasing new videos every week to bring you more of the #1 first-time homebuyer resource in the U.S. With education as our top priority, we're always looking to give you the best information in the best format for you, because you deserve it.
So make sure to check the link in the show notes or search How to Buy a Home on YouTube and subscribe for all the latest updates. As always, if you have an idea for a topic you'd like to see covered, ask us your home buying questions on howtobuyahome.com. Now, back to this episode of the How to Buy a Home podcast.
Okay, let's get out of the Freudian emotional roots of all this and into more math. Woohoo! Now, there's a bunch more advantages than the simple formula, that $18,000 net profit that we already talked about for Logical Joe. So we got that one. By paying that fee, you could actually save money by redirecting all those payments you were going to pay to the apartment and the landlord into your own appreciating asset. Second part, math number 2. What's the exact number that you would have to pay to break your lease? I'm asking. Because a lot of people don't even really know that. Do you know for sure what the penalty would be? Have you looked carefully at your lease agreement, at your contract? Okay, that's the first part of this step 2. The second part is once you know for sure what it says on paper, ask your landlord. Over the years, I have heard hundreds of stories from buyers who talk to their landlords, and those landlords drastically reduced, sometimes even completely waived the fee altogether. Lots of times, the landlords realize they can raise the rent when you leave, so they're more than happy to get you out of that contract. Okay, this is more simple math, part 3. Did you know that there's a standard payment procedure when you buy a home that allows you to recoup thousands of dollars in the very first weeks of home ownership? This is standard, happens everywhere when anyone goes from renting to owning. The way it works is mortgages are paid in arrears, backwards, after you live there for the month. Rent is paid in advance. You pay on the first for the next 30 days. So when you buy the home, that first couple months you're in there, the first few weeks you live there, the first 30 to 50 days, you get a big period where you don't have a mortgage payment. From the first day that you own the home, you get to collect 5 to 7 weeks of paychecks before you ever have to make a mortgage payment. And yes, this is legit. This is not a program or a special thing for first time. This is how it works when you buy a home. And it's not often discussed. It's a totally factual benefit that happens every time you buy a home. If you close on November 15th, that day, what happens is you pay your down payment and your closing costs, and then you get the keys. So from the 15th to the 30th of November, those first 2 weeks you own the home, that mortgage payment is calculated into your closing costs. It's factored in. And of course, that closing cost payment, you've had that estimate. You've been saving that for months and months and months. It's been incrementally coming out of your paychecks for the last year. So that money is saved and calculated. So you get the keys on the 15th and you start collecting paychecks. And then December 1st rolls around and you're sitting in the home you've owned for 2 weeks with 2 paychecks and you haven't made a single mortgage payment and there's nothing due on the 1st because mortgages collect at the end of the month, not the beginning like rent. So you don't have a payment until January 1st. That means you get 4 more weeks of paychecks. That's 6 weeks of paychecks collected before you make your first mortgage payment on January 1st. So when you're talking about the lease break penalty, well, in this situation, you haven't even owned the home for 2 months yet, and it's already been offset. All right, now let's go to simple math number 4. This is the big math that is definitely not explained enough to first-time home buyers. There are big fat numbers of rent versus buy. And the reason I say big math is because it's big picture. And a big part of the big picture is the timing. The sooner you own the home, the more time that you will get the exponentially compounding gains of home ownership. As a renter, you can often get lulled into a comfort zone, but you're never getting ahead. I mean, think about this. You get a promotion, your salary goes up. Awesome. Guess what? So does your rent at the end of this contract. So there's no gains ever. That's what everyone's talking about when they're looking at our current economy. But as a homeowner, the minute you get the keys, you start the clock towards a comfort that no renter could ever imagine. Because in 2, 3, 5, 7 years, you're going to be paying that fixed same monthly payment for your shelter. And in just a few years, that fixed payment's going to feel incredibly low. And on top of that, you're paying into an investment, something that you can use hundreds of different ways down the road. And you'll get the added emotional benefit of knowing that you have total control over your living environment. Now, you add all that stuff up, the big picture, that's the core of the American dream. And once you realize it's not an insurmountable task to actually buy that dream, you can set the best date for you to do it, not the date your landlord picked when they drew up your lease contract. And the appreciation, the value in your home, the profits that you make, it's huge. You're funding it by making a monthly payment into something, like we've said a million times, that you already pay for, your rent, but now you get a return. You're getting profits by doing nothing more than paying the monthly bill you already pay. Home appreciation in the United States is about 3.5% to 4.5% a year. Now, the forecast for 2026, right now, as I'm recording this today, the end of October, it's a little bit less than that. The recent predictions are 2 to 4% for 2026. So Let's do this. Let's add that 3% right in the middle there to our boy Logical Joe. He was cautious about losing that $20,000 and breaking the lease, but of course we figured out that meant he'd lose $20,000 in rent that he could have been investing in himself for that appreciating asset. So he's looking at a mild 3% increase in 2026. On a $400,000 house, that's a $12,000 gain in the value of the home. Now that's on top of all the other math. If he'd gotten out of the lease and bought it, he would have gotten $12,000 plus all this. Every payment that he makes reduces his loan on the asset that he now owns. He'd get to skip that 5 to 7 weeks of payments when he transitioned from renter to buyer. He'd get that 10 months of home ownership tax benefits that you don't get when you're a renter. And if he bought now, here at the end of 2025, buying in this window of opportunity, that would give him the priceless benefits of buying when he was more in control as a home buyer. At the end of this year, there's going to be less competition. It's going to be lower prices, and there's going to be more choice for picking the home that fits for Logical Joe, because we've got an onslaught of spring buyers that are going to be pushing prices up. So the math of not wanting to pay that lease breaking fee, it's not just about the math of the rent replacement strategy. Choosing the date that most benefits your personal timing, that's going to benefit you tens of thousands more than staying beholden to that arbitrary date on your lease contract. And if you're informed on the housing market activity, you can find the dates that's going to be most advantageous for you to make the most money, because timing is everything. So anyone out there who's listening is in a lease right now, let's go over what's happening right now so you can see what benefits you could take advantage of in the November 2025 to February 2026 window of opportunity. Because I guarantee you, the day that your lease ends on your contract, it's 99.999% of the time not the perfect day for you to buy a home. Now, if it does happen to be that day, you should buy a lottery ticket too. That's just luck. You decide what the best date is by looking at the math and the data, what's happening in the market. And here it is. This window of opportunity is being created by the headlines I told you about in the last episode. The price cuts, the longer days on market. What was it? 20% of sellers cut their asking prices in September, with the mid-tier, the $350,000 to $500,000 homes being 21%, which was the biggest sector of people who are making price cuts. The market was flat. I think right now I looked at, $435,545. That's the median price right now. Because homes are staying on the market longer, it's up to 62 days is the national average, which is crazy because around here it's still just a couple weeks. That's 18 straight months of the days on market, that actual statistic going up, which means buyers have room to negotiate. Redfin even warned that the housing market was moving at the slowest pace for this time of year in nearly a decade, since 2016. So the translation from all that, less competition, better pricing, and better odds of getting seller credits. All of that stuff makes it cheaper and easier for you to buy. These are typically the slower months anyway. And now you've got all this data compiled that compounds this normally already a buyer's market window of time. I told you that condos are a gold mine right now. 72.3% more sellers of condos than buyers. Huge opportunity for you to stepping stone. We talked about the credit score changes that are happening in your favor. That brand new Vantage 4.0. Cool. Really excited to see you, Vantage. Never liked FICO anyway. Isaac's a jerk. But this could be a good thing for first-time home buyers. And if you haven't checked your loan approval numbers based on your credit score in the past few weeks, it's definitely worth refreshing and taking a look with a unicorn lender who might be able to use the Vantage Score 4.0. And of course, I talked to you about interest rates. As I'm recording this today, as I anticipated, we're a few days, about a week ahead of when the Fed is going to drop the Fed rate. Today, this morning, what is it? I'm recording this on October 22nd, and the interest rates nationally are at 6.17%, which means almost everybody out there with even a halfway decent lender can get a rate in the 5%. And I told you guys this was going to happen. I told you that before the Fed meeting on the 28th and 29th, interest rates would bake in a drop. And it happened. It's been dropping the last couple days this week. So right now, At the very least, you owe it to yourself to get a trusted source to run your numbers at these new low rates. And no, not a mortgage calculator online. No. Check out episode 180. Mortgage calculators are garbage. We'll put it in the show notes. But on the positive side, there's a really good chance that your rent payment right now could be a lot closer to your mortgage payment than you think. And for some of you, it's definitely going to be lower with this new interest rate. We talked about this window is happening because the National Association of Home Builders is ramping up to build more homes early next year, which means right now they're giving them away at discounts. And there's a new headline today. This has come out even just in the time since I posted the last episode. 70 new down payment assistance programs were launched during the third quarter in 2025. 70. That's from a report from the Down Payment Resource, which is a thing. Now, that brings the grand total nationwide to 2,624 down payment assistance programs. What's crazy is in more than 2,000 counties, they now have 10 or more down payment assistance programs for home buyers, with more programs now supporting teachers, police, military families, and yes, they even have programs for people that don't meet that maximum income. I know a lot of times they think it's just for low income people, but there are grants out there that are available for people that are making decent money. In the last episode, we learned how the media reports the news and discovered why news of this window opportunity is not making it to your news feed. A flat market doesn't equal a dead market. It doesn't equal a crashing market coming, and it doesn't equal limited opportunities. A flat winter housing market is your opening. You're buying homes at value during a pause for the rest of the world. With inventory still insanely low for the long term, that supports continued price appreciation happening next year when people get back into the market. Buying in this window means that you're capturing today's negotiated price and tomorrow's appreciation when the spring battle royale pushes prices up. So, are you sitting there going, all right, I'm hearing this. Should I break my lease? Well, the answer is, I don't know. It depends. And I know you hate that, but that's the truth. I'm guessing that for most of you, the math says yes. All in all, you need to take all of this stuff in and then make the decision on your own. Do the math for yourself. And then understanding where the market is going this winter and next spring, what's the best date for you to buy? I'm not looking at your lease agreement right now. I don't see your contract. I don't know what date is on there. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, pick the date based on all of this data and then compare it to your contract. Don't just wait for your lease to run out because you think that you still need to save more anyway. Don't just decide not to look into it and let that arbitrary date control your destiny because you think you need to save more money. There's no way that you can make the decision of what the best date is for you until you have run your complete numbers with a professional team. I've done dozens of interviews over the last month, and at the top of every interview, I always ask them, hey, what's your number one tip? You know, you're a regular person. You're someone who bought a home. Tell us, what's your number one tip? Because you just went through this. And I swear, in the past few months, recently, I've been hearing many people say this. Their answer is something to the effect of, don't wait. Oh my God, I was so excited to see how ready I was. And so their tip to everyone is like, oh my God, don't wait. You are way closer than you think. Oh my God, we were so much more ready. You have to just find out, see where you're at. Don't wait. You are way more ready. That's what people have been saying all the time. And the only way that you can decide if breaking your lease is truly mathematically the right thing for you to do is to know exactly if you can buy a home that you want. Running all the math I gave in this episode is pointless if you're guesstimating about buying a home without a professional first-time home buyer expert showing you the dozens and dozens of options that potential buyers can have in this market. Can you take advantage of this window of opportunity? That's the math you need to find out. It truly won't take much more time talking to that professional than it did for you to listen to me in your ear holes for this whole podcast. The biggest obstacle out there, it's not home prices, it's not interest rates, it's not affordability, it's not the housing market, it's not your credit score, and no, it's not even your lease. Not just according to me, but according to all the people I've interviewed who bought a home, was waiting too long to start. So stop waiting and start now. because you're going to be glad that you did. And I know you can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyaHome.com to get started.